Okay, so the three tier. So let me draw here the three tier structure of GST. Now the parliament and the state legislator will have the power. So only the parliament and the state legislators have the power to levy GST. Okay. So there will be a complete separation of power between center and the state. So you have to remember this. This is very, very important. So let me draw the structure so you'll understand GST structure, and very, very important for your UPSC exam. So first comes the center GST, then comes the state GST, then comes the interstate GST. Okay. Now under center we will say center will have exclusive power to levy central GST. So that is called as CGST. State, let us see in state. Here also state will have exclusive power to levy GST. And interstate, so what is interstate? Inside the state. Okay, so center, in interstate the center will levy and collect IGST. Yes, it is called as IGST. So CGST, then SCGST. Yes, that is called as SCGST. Let me write down here. And total is IGST. So there are three kinds of GST. Okay. Now the center will have the power to levy GST when it comes to interstate trades and export, imports, and the sharing of IGST. Now let's concentrate on this IGST. Now this IGST, very interesting. Okay, will be shared between the center and the state. Okay, based on the GST Council. Okay, so this is very important. So let us now talk about the GST Council. Okay. So GST Council. Okay. Now this council will have representation of both center and state. Okay. Now this council will be headed by Union Finance Minister. Okay, and the minister, let me mention this also, very, very important. The Minister of State for Revenue. Okay, that is the central government will be a member. So the Minister of Finance from each state of minister will nominate, and it is being nominated by the states, will be its member. Again I repeat, the Minister of Finance from each state or minister nominated by the states will be its member. Now the decision will be made by 3/4, okay, of the members of the council. Okay, now the central government will have 1/3 voting share in the council. Again I say, so the decision will be made by the majority of 3/4 members. Okay, and the central or the center government will have 1/3 voting share in the council. Now the state government will have 2/3. So 1/3 of center and 2/3 of voting share will be in the council. So what are the advantages of GST? Now let us go to the last part of GST. So first we will write is advantages. See, every tax which has been introduced has an advantage as and has a disadvantage also. So yes, even GST has its limitations. So first is, it is very easy. Okay, so easy compliance. Okay, second is removal of red tapeism, so there is no corruption here and it is very transparent. Okay, third is no overlapping, that is called as cascading effect. Very very important point, and remember this word cascading. Okay, so it's like overlapping. Okay, then it is a single tax, so let me write down here, single tax. Fifth, which is on goods and services, there is uniformity. Yes, so uniformity of tax structure. Okay, so this is the advantages. Okay, let us talk about the limitations. Limitations or disadvantages. First, it is very complicated structure. Second is, it has multiple tax rates. Okay, so that is why the single tax is not there. Okay, third, difficulties. So yes, there will be difficulties. Okay, difficulties will arise due to the nature of the India's informal economy. Okay, so there will be a lot of difficulties. Yes, there is no economic equality, or I can say as rational. Okay, because there is, why is it? Because there is multiple tax slabs. So there is no economy. Everybody has to not pay the same tax. It is multiple tax slabs are there. That is a limitation. Okay. Then fifth, the important commodities. Okay, like like petrol, then liquor, they are out of GST. So GST is not calculated with petrol and liquor. So for liquor and petrol, you have to pay a separate tax. Okay, and the last one is the center gets too much power. So center has too much power. Okay, to attend the future tax law. So this everything is depending on the center. So center is dominating this GST. So remember this. So these are the limitations, guys. Okay, so now we'll quickly go to the tax reforms. Okay, and that is what is very very important. What are the changes which India has done? Okay, so the tax reforms. Okay, so if you see from 1973-74, there have been 11 income tax slabs. Okay, which is ranging from 10% to 85%. Okay, so the wealth tax is also, so with a surcharge of additional 15%, which is very high. Sometimes the individuals even have to pay 97% also. And that time, if you see, there was wealth tax also, which was making the whole towards, the Indians were had to pay so much of tax. Okay, so the tax reforms of 1986 changed that. Okay, so it reduced the tax slabs. Okay, and it came down to 60 to 50 percent. Okay, so the major, if you say the major changes, so the major tax reforms took place in 1991, 92 and 1996 and 97, and which lowering the tax into more 35%. Okay, so that is why now there are certain things which reform. So let me just quickly write down. So the reforms further eliminated the wealth tax. Okay, then there was a person called as Kelsker or Kelker, the Kelker task force. Okay, they had recommended, so what did they recommended? That the tax should be simple, that tax should be simpler. Okay, and certain changes should be done in 2005 and 6. Okay, now the rate of taxation varied highly for different types of corporation until 20 years ago. Okay, so if you see, the tax effective rate of taxation for corporates was 45 to 65%. Then the tax reforms came in 1991, 92 and 1996, 97, which reduced it to 40%, and then finally 35%. So the subsequent budgets have slowly reduced the marginal rate of of income tax, and now it has ultimately come down to 25%. So in India also followed, let me write down here, India followed an import substitution model after independence for its growth. Okay, now throughout the 1970s and the 1980s, India has a very complex and a regressive custom duty structure. Okay, so India also maintains a very huge negative list of imports along with a lot of quantitative restrictions. Okay, so things started changing the post 1991, that is a crisis which was there, and when the liberalization policies came up, that opened up the Indian economy. So the peak rate of custom duties, which were which was 300% that time before 1991, it slashed down to 30%. Okay, so that is why even the World Trade Organization also setting up all the debts and almost the payments, the tax rate also got more further reduced to 25 to then finally 20%, and then finally in 2003 and 4 it came down to 12.5%. So from 300% to 12.5%. Okay, so India's excise duty structure is also having a overlapping and all. Okay, so both what, because of this excise duty of overlapping and cascading effect, there is a lot of problem in the production department and also in the manufacturing department. So both the department and companies are suffering. Okay, so to change this entire manufacturing, the government of India has decided to make a fundamental, a very important change in excise duty structure. So India introduced the first thing that is called as mod VAT, that is in 1986, which was further simplified and it was renamed as Sen VAT, which I had explained to you in the year 2000. So the Sen VAT contains the provisions, which the manufacturer had to purchase and how much the duty has to be paid. So everything was clear. So the indirect taxation inquiry, committee also, if you see, let me drop this. So the indirect taxes committee was constituted in 1976. Okay, and it suggested reforms in India's indirect tax structure. Now the committee recommended lots of things, that ad valorem type of tax due to higher income, taxation should be more, the people who are in lower income, they should pay less, and this also a single commodity tax or VAT was also introduced. So many changes happened, VAT was introduced. Then again in June 2004, okay, VAT was introduced, and from April 2005, VAT was completely on the track. Okay, so it was introduced in June 2004 by finance ministers, and then finally that it was approved, yes, VAT will start from April 2005. So sales tax was replaced by VAT. Now in India, except for few services assigned to states such as entertainment, then electricity, no other service is assigned either to the center or to the state. Now this division or this description between goods and services when it comes to taxation, there must be always, the taxation should be neutral. Okay, now to remove this, that state should pay less and center should pay more, center should pay less and state. So to remove this bias or partiality, towards services, the government have introduced, the service tax, okay, in 1994-95. Okay, now since 1994-95, every year the service tax, as I said, has widened. Okay, so the government has over the years has increased the, the service tax from 10% in 2012 and 13, and now the service tax has increased. Before GST was 2017 and 18. Okay, now the tax, very very important, committee, okay, of 1991, headed by Raja J. Chelia, okay, and committee on service taxation headed by Govind Rao. Okay, so all are imposing, all are imposing, or you can say they were against the service tax. Okay, and the same was recommended by Vijay Kelkar also. I told you who was Mr. Kelkar. So the same was also, all these people were opposing service tax, and the same was also recommended by Mr. Vijay Kelkar Committee on Direct Taxes and Indirect Taxes. So that is very very important. So this all had happened. Okay, so now let me talk about some small terms which we need to study. Okay, so first we will talk about is the tax incidence. I had told you. So the key to imposing the tax, who bears its burden, is called as tax incident. Okay, so the shifting of tax from one person to another is also known as tax incident. So the shifting, okay, of one person to the other is known as tax incidence. Okay, so all indirect tax comes under this category. So for all direct tax, the incidence of tax and burden lies with the same person. So the incidence of tax depends mainly on, it's like, electricity, where you have to work, whether you are rich or poor, you have to work. Okay, so that is what, so that is a burden to the consumers, and it is like, irrelevant, you have to pay. Now, what is tax avoidance? So there are some terms which you need to know. So it refers to minimizing the tax liabilities using an available source of, that these things are exempted, you need not pay, and it is by means of taking advantage of shortcomings of tax structure. So it usually happens at the tax planning stages. Okay, so it usually happens at the tax planning stage. Now next is tax evasion. So tax evasion means reducing the tax liabilities using illegal measures. So tax evasion is a clear case of forgery of accounts, as it uses measures which are forbidden in law. Okay, what is a cascading effect? Yes. Okay, which is not a final product. So cascading tax is one which is just on final product, but also on raw materials and everything. As I said, you have to pay in everywhere. So that is a cascading effect. So a cascading tax is one which is not just on final product, but also on the raw materials used as an input. Now the tax is levied at every stage of production and distribution, and it is a tax on tax. So it is called as tax on tax. Okay, so this is very important. Coming to the next one, we will talk about is Laffer curve. Okay, so it is named after the economist called as Arthur Laffer. Okay, so this is the curve which shows the relationship between the government tax revenue and tax rates. Okay, so the curve is inversely U shaped. Okay, so that is representing, as the tax rate increases, the government revenue also increases up to an optimum level. So if the government tries to increase the taxes, the government revenue will also start falling. Yes, so thus a government must maintain an optimum balance between the tax rate and the revenue. Yes, talking about the next one, what is a tax buoyancy? So it is a measure of the responsiveness of the tax receipts with respect to GDP. Okay, so basically it's a tax which is considered buoyant when revenue is increased by more than 1% if the GDP has increased by 1%. Yes, coming to the next one. So we'll quickly learn the topics. Yes, the next one is fiscal drag. Okay, so it is a concept where inflation and earnings growth may push more tax payers into higher tax brackets. Okay, so therefore fiscal drag has the effect of raising government tax revenue without explicitly raising the tax rates. Okay, so now a cess and a surcharge, this is the last thing. The cess is an imposed over above the tax, extra tax which is called as. And what is a surcharge? Now surcharge is a tax, is a charge levied on any tax. Okay, it is an additional charge on tax. Okay, but whereas a cess is a predetermined tax, it is a specific predetermined tax which is above the tax which you have to pay. Okay, so that is why now so additional tax is called a surcharge, and cess is something which is above the tax. So this is the difference which you have to know. Okay, so guys, I'll see you in the next class with a new topic, and we will also discuss the important taxation, important taxation questions and on revenue. Okay, and also on the government budget. So I'll see you in the next class. Thank you.